She was Hollywood's English Rose, elegant, graceful, and always composed. But behind that dignified image, Deborah Kerr played some of the boldest, most daring roles of her time, including one of the most iconic love scenes ever filmed. Today, we uncover the extraordinary life of Deborah Kerr, from her Scottish childhood to her rise in Hollywood, her scandals, and the legacy she left behind.
Our love affair is a wondrous thing that we'll rejoice in remembering.
If you love classic Hollywood stories, don't forget to subscribe for more timeless legends. Deborah Jane Kerr Trimmer came into the world on the 30th of September 1921 in the quiet Scottish town of Helensburgh, nestled on the banks of the River Clyde. She was the daughter of Arthur Charles Kerr Trimmer, a civil engineer who had served as a soldier in the First World War, and Kathleen Rose Smale, who provided the warmth and stability of home. Deborah had one younger brother, Edward Kerr Trimmer, born in 1926. The Kerr household was modest but cultured, encouraging discipline, education, and refinement. From an early age, Deborah wasn't dreaming of Hollywood lights or silver screens. Her heart was set on ballet. Little Deborah spent long hours practicing delicate movements, hoping one day to grace the stage as a prima ballerina. Her talent and determination earned her a place at the prestigious Sadler's Wells Ballet School in London, a place where only the most gifted dancers were trained. But destiny had other plans for her. While Deborah mastered the discipline of ballet, it became clear that her future wasn't meant to unfold entirely in pointe shoes. An unexpected influence came from her aunt, Phyllis Smale, a drama teacher who recognized Deborah's quiet intensity and encouraged her to try acting. What began as a sideline soon grew into a passion. She enrolled in drama training, joined repertory theater, and quickly proved that her grace and discipline from ballet translated beautifully into stage presence. Her early performances caught the attention of casting directors, leading to screen tests that revealed something striking. Deborah didn't just act emotions. She seemed to live them. That quality landed her a small but memorable role in Major Barbara, 1941, where she first hinted at her screen promise. Not long after, opportunity knocked louder. Director John Baxter was searching for an actress to play Sally Hardcastle in Love on the Dole, 1941. He didn't want glamour, he wanted authenticity. Deborah's test stood out, understated yet powerful, and she won the part over better-known actresses. Love on the Dole became her true breakthrough.
I'm sorry, laddie. Anyway, I've still got you. They can take away our jobs, but they can't take away our love. Can they?
Playing Sally, a young woman torn between love and survival in the Depression years, she delivered a performance raw with vulnerability, strength, and quiet desperation. Critics praised her naturalism, noting that she brought dignity and truth to a role that might easily have slipped into melodrama. Audiences saw not just a starlet, but an actress who could embody the struggles of ordinary people. For many, this was the first clear sign that Deborah Kerr was destined for greatness. Major Barbara, 1941.
Oh, isn't it wonderful how a few minutes' prayer revives you? I was quite lightheaded this morning. I was so tired. But Major Barbara just sent me to pray for 5 minutes, and I was able to go on as if I'd only just begun. Did you have a piece of bread, Mr. Price?
Yes, Miss.
Deborah Kerr's very first credited role in cinema came with Major Barbara, an adaptation of George Bernard Shaw's socially charged play, directed by Gabriel Pascal. Kerr was still only in her early 20s and relatively unknown. But this film quietly marked the beginning of what would become one of the most remarkable careers in British and Hollywood cinema. She played Jenny Hill, a young Salvation Army worker who appears alongside the more commanding figures of Barbara Undershaft, Wendy Hiller, and Adolphus Cusins, Rex Harrison. Jenny is a secondary character, but Kerr infused her with such warmth and quiet devotion that audiences and critics noticed her immediately. She didn't dominate the film, but she didn't need to. Her sincerity made her stand out. The Manchester Guardian praised her gentle presence that lent grace to Shaw's words, a subtle acknowledgement that there was something luminous about this newcomer. What made her contribution striking was her ability to embody Shaw's sharp dialogue with natural charm. Jenny's faith, simplicity, and compassion could easily have been overshadowed by the more theatrical characters around her. Yet Kerr's delicacy gave her a distinct identity. It was a small role, but it planted the seed of her screen image, refined, dignified, but emotionally accessible.
Please, someone go in and tell Major Barbara.
You want to tell your Major and me, do you?
Please don't drag my hair. Let me go.
Do you or don't you? Yes or no?
Oh, God. Give me strength. Oh.
Go on.
An interesting bit of trivia is that Kerr was so nervous on set that she often rehearsed her lines alone late into the night, fearful of disappointing director Gabriel Pascal. Yet those efforts paid off. Many of her colleagues later recalled that she carried herself like a seasoned actress, even in her very first role. Looking back, Major Barbara is not just another adaptation of Shaw. It is the film that gave audiences their first glimpse of an actress who, though still in the shadows, was destined for the spotlight. The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, 1943. If Major Barbara gave Deborah Kerr her first taste of film acting, then the life and death of Colonel Blimp turned her into a true star. Directed by Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger, this sweeping wartime epic is often regarded as one of the greatest British films ever made. And for Kerr, it was the project that showcased her versatility and made critics sit up and take notice. What made her role extraordinary was the fact that she didn't just play one character, she played three. Kerr embodied Edith Hunter, Barbara Wynne, and Angela Johnny Cannon, three women across different generations, each representing the great love of General Clive Candy's, Roger Livesey, life. This was a bold choice by the filmmakers. Rather than casting separate actresses, they entrusted Kerr to carry the emotional thread of Candy's romantic journey through time. Her performance was dazzling in its range. As Edith, she was spirited and intelligent, a woman ahead of her time whose sharp wit enchanted both Candy and his German friend, Theo, Anton Walbrook. As Barbara, she brought warmth, charm, and youthful energy, embodying the archetypal Englishwoman of the 1930s. And finally, as Johnny, the wartime driver, she injected vitality and resilience, perfectly capturing the new woman of the 1940s. Critics immediately recognized her achievement. The New York Times praised the film's poetic sweep and Kerr's radiant adaptability. British reviewers admired how she tied the narrative together, with the Times remarking that Miss Kerr gives us three heroines and convinces us each is real, each a woman of her own time. An interesting fact is that Kerr was only 21 years old when she played these roles, yet she was tasked with portraying women of vastly different ages and life experiences. Michael Powell later admitted he had been unsure whether such a young actress could manage it, but Kerr astonished everyone on set with her maturity. Roger Livesey, her co-star, reportedly said that Kerr's presence brought a heartbeat to the film, keeping its emotional core alive. For audiences in wartime Britain, her character symbolized endurance, love, and continuity across generations, ideals the nation desperately needed during the Second World War. And for Deborah Kerr herself, Colonel Blimp was more than a success. It was her true cinematic breakthrough. Overnight, she was no longer just a promising newcomer. She was Britain's rising star, capable of holding her own in one of the most ambitious films of the era.
That's what the war does to men. He's just a brute. And he used to be the kindest, gentlest, most courteous husband.
Vacation from Marriage, 1945. By 1945, Deborah Kerr was no longer just a promising newcomer. She was ready to carry a film with emotional depth and charm. In Vacation from Marriage, released in the UK as Perfect Strangers, directed by Alexander Korda, she played Catherine Wilson, a reserved and timid housewife whose life is transformed by the upheavals of World War II. Sharing the screen with Robert Donat, one of Britain's most respected actors, Kerr was tasked with balancing the delicate nuances of domestic boredom with the emotional growth demanded by wartime separation. Catherine starts as a quiet, compliant woman, defined largely by her marriage and domestic routine. But as war forces both her and her husband into new experiences, Catherine discovers resilience, independence, and self-confidence. Kerr's performance captured this evolution with remarkable subtlety. She moved effortlessly from vulnerability to quiet strength, giving audiences a heroine who was relatable, inspiring, and entirely believable. Critics were impressed. Variety praised her for charming naturalism, noting that she gave Catherine a lived-in authenticity that made the character resonate long after the credits rolled. The film also allowed Kerr to display her comedic timing in lighter moments, hinting at the versatility that would define her Hollywood career. Black Narcissus, 1947. Deborah Kerr's career took a daring and transformative turn with Black Narcissus, directed by the visionary duo Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger. In this psychological drama, Kerr played Sister Clodagh, the strict and devout leader of an Anglican order sent to establish a convent in the remote Himalayas. Acting alongside Flora Robson, Gene Simmons, and David Farrar, Kerr faced the challenge of portraying a woman of unwavering faith who begins to confront her own suppressed desires and memories of love. Sister Clodagh is a study in restraint and inner conflict. Kerr's performance was subtle yet profoundly affecting. She conveyed the tension between devotion and temptation, authority and vulnerability, without ever resorting to overt melodrama. Her calm exterior belied the emotional turmoil simmering beneath, and it was this mastery of quiet intensity that drew critical acclaim. The New York Times described her work as a performance of luminous restraint, while British reviewers marveled at her ability to suggest inner torment beneath her composed surface. The film's setting added a dramatic layer to Kerr's role. Though the story unfolds in the Himalayas, the movie was shot entirely in Pinewood Studios, with artificial mountains and wind machines creating the treacherous environment. Kerr's poise amid these artificial challenges highlighted her professionalism and her capacity to ground a surreal story in genuine emotion. Black Narcissus cemented Deborah Kerr's reputation as an actress capable of profound psychological depth. It was a departure from her earlier roles, proving that she could handle challenging, unconventional characters and still captivate audiences with elegance and emotional resonance.
Dear my lord, make me acquainted with your cause of grief.
I am not well in health, that is all.
Brutus is wise, and were he not in health, he would embrace the means to come by it.
Julius Caesar, 1953. In MGM's lavish adaptation of Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, directed by Joseph L. Mankiewicz, Deborah Kerr took on the role of Portia, the devoted wife of Brutus, played by James Mason. Though her screen time was limited in a cast filled with Hollywood giants, including Marlon Brando as Mark Antony, Lewis Calhern as Caesar, and John Gielgud as Cassius, Kerr managed to leave a lasting impression. Portia is a character defined by emotional intelligence and loyalty. She is deeply aware of the political turmoil surrounding her husband and struggles with his secrecy and inner turmoil. Kerr's performance captured this delicate balance perfectly. She conveyed both vulnerability and quiet strength, pleading with Brutus to confide in her while subtly reflecting the tension and uncertainty of the era. Critics appreciated how she made a small role emotionally significant. The New York Times noted that Kerr brought grace and intensity to Portia, ensuring that her presence was felt even amidst a star-studded ensemble. An interesting piece of trivia: Kerr's portrayal was praised for avoiding theatrical exaggeration. In a film where Shakespearean dialogue could easily overwhelm, she made Portia approachable and human, grounding the character in sincerity. Her ability to communicate deep emotion in brief scenes demonstrated a maturity and precision in acting that would become a signature of her career. While not a breakout role, Julius Caesar added a prestigious Shakespearean credit to Kerr's growing filmography and showed Hollywood that she could hold her own even among some of the era's biggest stars. It was a subtle but important step in solidifying her reputation as a versatile and talented actress, capable of depth, poise, and nuanced emotion.
Come back here, Sergeant. I'll tell you the story. You can take it back to the barracks with you.
From Here to Eternity, 1953. From Here to Eternity, directed by Fred Zinnemann, was the film that would forever redefine Deborah Kerr's image in Hollywood. Cast as Karen Holmes, the dissatisfied wife of an Army captain, she found herself entangled in a passionate affair with Sergeant Milton Warden, played by Burt Lancaster. This role broke away from her refined, proper English lady persona, showcasing a daring and sensual side that audiences had never seen before. Karen Holmes is a complex character, trapped in a loveless marriage, yet yearning for genuine connection and emotional fulfillment. Kerr approached the role with nuance, portraying Karen's frustration, longing, and vulnerability without reducing her to a mere object of desire. Her chemistry with Burt Lancaster was electric. The famous beach scene, where the two embrace as waves crash around them, became one of cinema's most iconic moments, symbolizing raw passion and rebellion against societal norms. Critics were unanimous in their praise. The New York Times hailed Kerr as an actress of fire as well as poise, recognizing her ability to balance elegance with bold emotional expression. The performance earned her an Academy Award nomination, cementing her place among Hollywood's elite. A famous bit of trivia: the beach scene almost never made it to the screen. Censors initially deemed it too indecent, but Zinnemann fought to preserve it, knowing that it was essential to the film's emotional impact. Additionally, Kerr reportedly spent long hours rehearsing with Lancaster to ensure the scene conveyed intimacy and passion without melodrama, a testament to her meticulous professionalism. From Here to Eternity was more than a breakthrough, it was a transformation. Kerr proved that she could embody both sophistication and sensuality, commanding the screen with authority, depth, and emotional authenticity. This film firmly established her as a star capable of challenging the boundaries of the roles traditionally offered to women in Hollywood.
Majesty, I beg of you, don't take revenge on this girl. This girl hurt your vanity, that is all. She didn't hurt your heart. You have no heart.
The King and I, 1956. In Walter Lang's lavish musical adaptation of Rodgers and Hammerstein's The King and I, Deborah Kerr took on the role of Anna Leonowens, a British governess hired to educate the children of the King of Siam, played by the iconic Yul Brynner. While her singing was dubbed by Marnie Nixon, Kerr's performance was defined by her acting prowess, bringing grace, intelligence, and emotional depth to a character caught between cultural differences and personal integrity. Anna is both firm and compassionate, balancing authority with warmth as she navigates a court filled with tradition and protocol. Kerr infused the character with dignity and subtle humor, making Anna relatable while highlighting her strength and independence. The romantic tension between Anna and the king added a layer of complexity, requiring Kerr to portray both respect and quiet longing without overt dramatization. Critics adored her performance. The New York Times called it enchanting and dignified, emphasizing her ability to command the screen in a large, colorful production. Trivia lovers will appreciate that Kerr spent weeks rehearsing the film's iconic ballroom scene to perfect her sweeping curtsy, a gesture that has since become one of cinema's most graceful visual moments. Additionally, her chemistry with Brynner was carefully crafted. The balance of admiration, defiance, and subtle affection gave the film its enduring charm. The King and I demonstrated Kerr's versatility, proving she could excel not only in dramas and thrillers, but also in musical cinema, commanding both presence and elegance. It further solidified her reputation as a leading lady, capable of blending refinement with emotional authenticity, leaving a lasting impression on audiences worldwide.
He had to prove to you bullies that he was a man, and he was going to prove it with Ellie Martin.
Tea and Sympathy, 1956. In Vincente Minnelli's adaptation of Robert Anderson's controversial play, Deborah Kerr reprised her stage role as Laura Reynolds, a sensitive and compassionate teacher at an all-boys boarding school. The film explored themes rarely touched upon in 1950s Hollywood, including societal prejudice and emotional intimacy, and Kerr's portrayal had to navigate these delicate issues with both grace and courage. Laura Reynolds becomes the confidant and emotional anchor for Tom, played by John Kerr, no relation, a young student ostracized for his perceived differences. Kerr's performance captured the character's warmth, empathy, and moral strength, offering comfort and subtle guidance without ever veering into melodrama. Critics were impressed with how she handled such a daring subject matter. Variety praised her for giving warmth and compassion to a role that might easily have been mishandled. An interesting trivia note. Kerr was particularly invested in preserving the emotional subtlety of Laura's character, refusing to exaggerate the romantic undertones in favor of quiet dignity and authenticity. Her ability to convey both affection and restraint made the character believable and relatable, ensuring that the film resonated deeply with audiences of the time. Tea and sympathy reinforced Deborah Kerr's reputation as an actress capable of handling socially and emotionally challenging roles, blending sophistication, intelligence, and empathy in a way few performers could match. It was a testament to her skill in transforming complex narratives into performances that felt both natural and profoundly moving.
Mr. Allison?
Yeah.
I'm going to turn myself over to the Japanese.
What kind of talk is that?
Alone you might be able to survive, but not with me to feed too.
Heaven Knows, Mr. Allison, 1957. In John Huston's Heaven Knows, Mr. Allison, Deborah Kerr played Sister Angela, a nun stranded on a remote Japanese-occupied island during World War II. Paired with the rugged Robert Mitchum, who played a Marine seeking refuge on the same island, Kerr's performance blended innocence, strength, and quiet emotional complexity. Sister Angela is a woman of unwavering faith, yet the isolation and circumstances of war challenge her discipline and patience. Kerr portrayed Angela's internal struggle with remarkable subtlety, balancing devotion with emerging human vulnerability. The dynamic between her and Mitchum's character is delicate. Their growing respect and unspoken attraction add tension and depth without ever compromising Angela's moral and spiritual integrity. Critics praised her performance. The New York Times noted her delicate balance of purity and suppressed desire, highlighting her skill in navigating a role that demanded emotional nuance and restraint. A charming piece of trivia. During filming, Kerr and Mitchum developed a lifelong friendship, their natural chemistry contributing to the authenticity of their characters' bond. Huston's direction emphasized realism and intimate tension, and Kerr rose to the occasion, proving that she could shine in both romantic and dramatic contexts simultaneously. Heaven Knows, Mr. Allison further showcased Kerr's versatility, cementing her status as an actress capable of combining elegance, moral authority, and subtle emotional intensity in performances that captivated both audiences and critics alike.
It was nobody's fault but my own. I was looking up. It was the nearest thing to heaven. You were there.
An Affair to Remember, 1957. In Leo McCarey's romantic classic An Affair to Remember, Deborah Kerr portrayed Terry McKay, a sophisticated and independent singer whose chance encounter with Cary Grant's Nicky Ferrante sparks an unforgettable romance. The film revolves around their whirlwind love affair built on charm, wit, and mutual admiration, and then tested by fate and circumstance. Terry is elegant, witty, and emotionally guarded, yet Kerr imbued her with warmth and vulnerability that made her instantly relatable. The character navigates the tension between desire and propriety, showcasing Kerr's trademark blend of poise and emotional authenticity. Her chemistry with Cary Grant was electric, and the duo's subtle glances and restrained gestures conveyed a depth of passion that words alone could not express. Critics loved the pairing. The Hollywood Reporter called it a masterclass in romantic restraint, emphasizing Kerr's ability to convey longing and strength simultaneously. A little-known trivia: the iconic Empire State Building rendezvous was filmed with meticulous attention to heightened suspense, and Kerr insisted on genuine reactions to the climactic twist, enhancing the scene's emotional impact. This film later inspired Sleepless in Seattle, cementing its legacy as one of Hollywood's most enduring romances. An Affair to Remember confirmed Deborah Kerr's status as the quintessential romantic lead, capable of elegance, intelligence, and heartfelt emotion, and remains one of the most beloved performances of her storied career.
And when did you first see and hear of such things?
Why, I made them up.
The Innocents, 1961. In Jack Clayton's haunting adaptation of Henry James's novella The Turn of the Screw, titled The Innocents, Deborah Kerr played Miss Giddens, a governess who becomes convinced that the children under her care are possessed by malevolent spirits. Acting alongside Michael Redgrave and Pamela Franklin, Kerr carried the film with a performance that combined vulnerability, moral certainty, and creeping psychological terror. Miss Giddens is a character trapped between rationality and fear, responsible for protecting the children while confronting inexplicable and terrifying events. Kerr's portrayal is layered. She conveys authority and poise while gradually revealing the emotional strain and hysteria that the supernatural environment imposes. Critics lauded her performance. The New York Times called it a performance of rare and haunting conviction, praising her ability to make the audience share her growing dread without resorting to overt horror. A compelling trivia fact. Much of the film's psychological horror relies on Kerr's reactions rather than special effects. She later admitted that The Innocents was one of the most demanding roles of her career, because maintaining tension and fear in a largely unseen environment required absolute control and precision. Her restrained yet deeply affecting performance elevated the film to classic status in the horror and psychological thriller genres. The Innocents highlighted Kerr's versatility and her fearless approach to challenging material. She proved she could inhabit dark, complex, and morally ambiguous roles with elegance and authority, reinforcing her status as one of cinema's most sophisticated and fearless actresses.
Here, please, let me help. Let me take it off.
I got to break the chain.
The Night of the Iguana, 1964. In John Huston's adaptation of Tennessee Williams' play, Deborah Kerr took on the role of Hannah Jelkes, a gentle, spiritually resilient spinster who encounters Richard Burton's tormented clergyman, Reverend Shannon. Sharing the screen with Ava Gardner and Sue Lyon, Kerr's performance provided the moral and emotional compass of the story. Hannah is a character defined by kindness, fortitude, and a quiet, unwavering moral clarity. Kerr portrayed her with a delicate mix of compassion and inner strength, grounding the film's emotional core and offering a contrast to the more volatile personalities surrounding her. Critics lauded her work. The New York Times commented that Kerr gave the picture a quiet dignity, highlighting her ability to embody serenity and resilience in the face of chaos. By the early 1970s, Deborah Kerr had already cemented her place in Hollywood history. She had played everything from nuns and schoolteachers to passionate lovers and aristocratic ladies. Yet as the golden age of the studio system faded, so too did the demand for actresses of her type. Unlike many stars who struggled with fading fame, Kerr chose to step away on her own terms. Her film appearances became less frequent, but she never truly vanished. Instead, she reinvented herself for the medium that was becoming more prestigious at the time, television. In the 1980s, she appeared in the acclaimed miniseries A Woman of Substance, 1984, based on Barbara Taylor Bradford's best-selling novel. Kerr played the older Emma Hart, a formidable businesswoman looking back on her extraordinary life. The role suited her perfectly, mature, commanding, and layered with wisdom and dignity. Audiences and critics praised her performance, noting that Kerr brought the same elegance and emotional depth to television that had defined her film career. It was a graceful transition that allowed her to remain relevant to a new generation of viewers without chasing roles that no longer felt authentic for her. Despite her extraordinary body of work, there was always one glaring omission in her career: an Academy Award. Between 1949 and 1961, Deborah Kerr was nominated for Best Actress 6 times for films including Edward, My Son, From Here to Eternity, The King and I, Heaven Knows, Mr. Allison, Separate Tables, and The Sundowners. Each time she lost, earning her the bittersweet reputation as the actress who couldn't win. For years, it was one of the Academy's most notorious oversights. But in 1994, Hollywood finally made amends. At the 66th Academy Awards, Deborah Kerr was presented with an honorary Oscar for her lifetime contribution to cinema.
Thank you. Thank you. There should be some more words for thank you, shouldn't there?
When her name was announced, the audience rose to its feet in a standing ovation that seemed to last forever. A recognition not just of her talent, but of her enduring grace and the respect she commanded in the industry. Though she had never won a competitive Oscar, the honorary award was an acknowledgement that her career was greater than any single performance. Kerr herself once remarked that she had always preferred to disappear into a role rather than chase stardom. And perhaps that very humility was why the Academy's recognition, though delayed, felt so deserved when it finally came. Fun fact, Deborah Kerr held the record for the most Oscar nominations without a win until 2002, when Glenn Close tied her. Deborah Kerr was always remembered as the epitome of grace, the proper English lady who never put a foot wrong on screen. But away from the cameras, her personal life had far more texture, shadow, and intrigue than the polished image Hollywood built for her. Her first marriage came in 1945 to Anthony Bartley, a dashing Royal Air Force fighter pilot who had survived the war with the kind of glamour and swagger that fascinated a young Deborah. They settled into married life with hopes of balancing family and career. Together they had 2 daughters, Melanie and Francesca. But Bartley soon found himself living in the shadow of a woman whose fame and schedule grew almost uncontrollably. Deborah was constantly in demand, flying between film sets in Britain, Hollywood, and Europe. For a man who had been used to being the hero in his own story, the imbalance was difficult to accept. Friends close to the couple later revealed that Bartley's jealousy and Deborah's relentless filming schedules strained the marriage to the breaking point. By 1959, after nearly 15 years together, they quietly divorced. But Kerr was not destined to remain alone for long. In 1960, she met screenwriter Peter Viertel, who had worked with legends like Ernest Hemingway and adapted The Old Man and the Sea for the screen. Viertel was worldly, charismatic, and unthreatened by Deborah's fame, a quality she found refreshing. They married the same year, and this union lasted until her death. Unlike her first marriage, this partnership thrived on shared interests and a mutual love of privacy. The couple spent most of their later years tucked away in Switzerland and Spain, far from Hollywood spotlights. Deborah often joked that she finally found her leading man off screen. Yet, for all her poise, rumors of romance did follow her. The most enduring whispers swirled around her and Burt Lancaster during the making of From Here to Eternity. Their iconic beach scene, waves crashing as they kissed with unbridled passion, shocked audiences at the time and redefined Deborah's image. Critics praised her for breaking free from her prim typecasting, but behind the applause, Hollywood insiders gossiped that the heat on screen may have spilled into real life. While neither Kerr nor Lancaster ever confirmed the affair, the chemistry between them was so palpable that many remained convinced. Another persistent rumor linked her to Robert Mitchum, her co-star in Heaven Knows, Mr. Allison. Mitchum was Hollywood's notorious bad boy, and his reputation clashed deliciously with Kerr's polished image. The two denied any romance, yet even respected film journalists of the time admitted that the bond between them on set seemed too natural to be entirely staged. One of Mitchum's friends later quipped that Deborah was one of the few women who could tame him, at least for a while. What's fascinating is how these stories never damaged Deborah's career. Unlike other actresses of her generation, she carried herself with such dignity that even rumors of affairs seemed to elevate her mystique rather than diminish it. She remained untouchable, admired by audiences and critics alike, a woman whose grace could weather scandal without a scratch. And perhaps that was Deborah Kerr's greatest performance of all, navigating the dual roles of private woman and public star, of dutiful wife and rumored lover, always with elegance, discretion, and just enough mystery to keep the world guessing. In her later years, Deborah Kerr chose to step back from the spotlight that had defined so much of her life. Unlike some stars who clung to Hollywood until the very end, Kerr was content to live in quiet dignity, far removed from the noise of fame. She and her husband, the writer Peter Viertel, settled in Switzerland and later spent much of their time in Spain, enjoying a life of privacy and companionship. For a woman who had spent decades disappearing into characters, this retreat into personal simplicity was perhaps her final act of elegance. Yet behind the quiet, she battled a private struggle. Kerr suffered from Parkinson's disease in her later years, which slowly robbed her of her strength. Despite her illness, she remained surrounded by her loved ones, particularly Viertel, with whom she shared nearly 5 decades of marriage. Their bond was a constant, steady presence, a love story that endured even as her health declined. Deborah Kerr passed away on October 16, 2007, at the age of 86 in Boatsdale, Suffolk, England. The timing of what followed was deeply poignant. Just 3 weeks after her death, Peter Viertel also passed away. It felt almost like the closing chapter of a novel, 2 lives so intertwined that even in death, they remained close together. Their near-simultaneous passing marked the end of a partnership that had been one of the anchors of Kerr's private world. Her death was mourned across the world. Tributes poured in from actors, directors, and critics who remembered her not just for her extraordinary beauty and talent, but for the intelligence and subtlety she brought to every role. Deborah Kerr's legacy is immense. She was a rare actress who could embody a nun in Black Narcissus, a restrained schoolteacher in The King and I, or a passionate adulteress on the beach in From Here to Eternity, and make each role entirely believable. Her versatility was her gift. Unlike many actresses of her era who were typecast, Kerr refused to be boxed in. She brought grace and poise, yes, but also quiet strength, sensuality, and a capacity for bold choices that challenged the norms of her time. Even Alfred Hitchcock, who worked with her on the life and death of Colonel Blimp, once said that Deborah Kerr was the finest actress in the world. High praise from a man known for his demanding perfectionism. Deborah Kerr's life was a story of elegance, courage, and quiet transformation. She proved that true artistry isn't about fame or trophies, but about leaving behind performances that live forever. She may have been Hollywood's English Rose, but behind that polished exterior burned the heart of a bold, daring actress who helped redefine what women could be on screen. If you enjoyed this journey through Deborah Kerr's life, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Sajjad Classic for more timeless Hollywood stories.